Hey everyone, Stefan here. Bit of a different video for you today. I'm sat in my porch with my terribly unfashionable headphones here, hanging out with Dr. David Miano, who has produced my absolute favorite series on YouTube at the moment. I absolutely love it. It's all about talking about alternative archaeology, really questioning alternative archaeology in a great way. I absolutely love it. So I just want to talk to him about it today because I find it interesting and maybe you will too. So thanks, David, for joining me here today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no problem. All the links to David's channel are going to be down in the pinned comment, of course. You know where all of that stuff is. Yeah, as I was just telling you before we hit record, your videos on alternative archaeology are so well made. They really are. I absolutely love them. And it's like I was saying, a form of like soap opera for me. I absolutely love it when I see you've posted one. I grab something to eat, something to drink, and really sit down and enjoy it, because you just have such a way of questioning the producers of these videos. These videos are sort of response videos, critiques to other YouTubers who are presenting their ideas. Well, let's start with what made you want to produce those kinds of videos?
Well, I guess one of the main reasons is because, when I'm on YouTube and I'm looking for the subject that I love, ancient history, you can't help but run into a lot of these channels. In fact, the most popular channels on ancient history are the alternative ancient history channels, right?
Yeah,
There are some great
absolutely.
ones otherwise, and I love those too. But they get a lot of views, and when I watched them, it worried me a bit that there were things that often were said in there that hadn't been fact checked or things like that, and that information was getting out there into the popular milieu or whatever that wasn't correct. So and because I studied ancient history, of course, in school, and I knew something about it, I thought, well, I'm gonna address some of these things, and so it's not as easy as you think. Like sometimes maybe a video will give you the impression that I just flicked on the microphone and I'm just like talking off the top of my head because I'm just so knowledgeable, but that's not how it works. It takes a lot of research because, you're watching one of their videos and you're like, wait a minute, is that true? Let me go check that. You have to go research it.
Yeah.
I never heard that before. And then you go look and you try to find out, is that a factual statement or isn't it? And so it does take time to put one together to get all the facts.
I mean, I don't know if that's what the viewer thinks, that they're quick to produce. For me, coming from the perspective of someone else that makes videos about archaeology online, I can immediately see there's an absolute ton of work that goes into these, especially on the research front. And that's something I really admire about the videos you made, in contrast to the couple of times that I've talked about alternative subjects. I've basically just reacted angrily to comments that people have made on my videos, and are more shooting from the hip. And I kind of regret that format because it doesn't win over any partisans. It doesn't change anyone's minds. It feels quite cathartic to me, perhaps, but it doesn't help the situation at all. Whereas yours, the research behind them is astonishing. There's tons of research there, for sure.
Yeah, it does take a little while. That's why I'm not pumping one out every week, but yeah. And then when you get into a video and you're like, okay, this will be like a 20-minute video, no problem. And then you start getting into it and you're like, oh man, this is going to be longer than I thought.
Well, yeah. I mean, your series on ancient Egyptian high technology was Lord of the Rings length.
Yeah,
really, in
yeah.
detail. Yeah, you had the whole trilogy.
Yeah. He had done 2 videos. Uncharted X, who I was critiquing that one, he did 2 videos, but mine ended up being 3 videos, close to almost 3 hours long total. So yeah. Now, of course, I'm also showing excerpts from him, so it isn't all me, but I try to make it mostly me, because I don't want to just repeat everything, just regurgitate. But it's kind of, you have to make a judgment, like, should I include this? Should I not include this? And so forth.
Yeah. I imagine that can be, the editing process behind that can be quite a lot. I'm sure there's a lot that's left on the cutting room floor.
Yeah.
What I really liked about that particular series was you posing questions to him. I'm not sure if he has replied in any way or
he has
responded.
not. In fact, he blocked me on Twitter. I have never even interacted
really?
with him. I haven't talked to him. I haven't gone on to any of his tweets or anything. But I just noticed when I was going to, when I released the, well, actually, I think it was like the day I released the first video of the 3, I thought, I'm gonna tweet him, and I'm gonna say, hey, if you want to have a discussion or whatever, about this, whatever. And he had already blocked me.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I guess he didn't take to it, unless he blocked me earlier. I don't know, but he had no reason to that I know of.
Yeah. I don't know. And just to sort of put a caveat in here for anyone listening, these videos that David has produced, these are really not personal attacks at all in any way. It's really just sticking to the content, sticking to the archaeology, and really engaging in it in good faith. And I think David will agree with me here when I say that there are no sacred ideas in archaeology. There's nothing that can't be questioned, but the new idea has to be questioned with as much intensity as the old idea, and it has to stand on its own evidence. And that's really what he's been doing. It's great stuff.
Yeah, I mean, peer review is a big part of history and archaeology, and in a sense, this is kind of like, I mean, it's more of an unofficial peer review, but I don't see like anyone that I who's from alternative history, whose videos I'm addressing, I don't see them as beneath me or something. Sometimes I get comments like that, like, "Oh, you think you're so high and mighty, you think you're better than everybody else," and that's not how I feel at all. I mean, they love ancient history. I love ancient history. I'm just fact checking, what they say and sharing that with people. And I feel like I'm kind of helping people to break down arguments and figure out, well, what is it? What's holding this argument up? What's being said here? What's the basic argument, and what, and does it make any sense? All of that, But I have been accused of sometimes of being insincere, but I'm not insincere. I'm not pretending to be nice. I'm really, like when I say at the beginning of the video, like I went into this video hoping to be persuaded, but I wasn't persuaded. I'm not faking that, So, but
well, oftentimes
get called an idiot and things like that. But
well, that's just on the internet. You got to get used to that. People have called me all manner of things under the sun. That's for sure. I wish I didn't react as strongly to it as I do sometimes. But I've lost my train of thought. I had a question there for a minute. That's the thing. You can really see in your videos the deconstruction of the idea, like you said, like the 3-part series on ancient Egyptian high technology. I had seen Uncharted X's videos before, and even though I was not personally convinced by the evidence, they are made in quite a good way. And I can see, for someone who has no educational background in archaeology or ancient history, how they could be very compelling. But when we watch your video, just the deconstruction of it, it can really make it so accessible for anyone, I feel like, to question the information that's presented to them online, which is so important in the times that we live in, being able to do that.
I mean, I mean, watching his videos, they're well produced. He's got some great videography. He has a pleasant voice to listen to. He sounds very reasonable, And so, yeah, you're right. If you don't, like, wait a minute, if you just say, wait, let's back up a second. Let's go over that again, because is he really making sense when he says that? Or, or what is the basis of his belief in this? It's just that, and you have to kind of slow down a little bit. But yeah, you're right. When you first watch it, you're like, oh, this is good. And he's really successful. He He only started, I think in late 2018, and he's already over 100,000 subscribers.
Yeah. There's something about the YouTube algorithm that really loves that content. And I don't know if it's because it lends itself to sort of sensational titles and things like that. But there's another famous channel, Bright Insight, who I believe you've made a video on as well.
I did 3 videos on him too. Yeah, 2 on Atlantis and
Mm-hmm.
1 on astronomical knowledge of the Sumerians. So the latter one was on, like, mainly goes back to Zechariah Sitchin and the idea that the solar system is depicted on one of the seals. But the first 2 are on Atlantis and the reshot hypothesis, which
I've seen that one that you've done.
Yeah, those are actually the first 2 in that series that I did, and yeah, I mean, it was just going over, the arguments for whether, could this be Atlantis and so forth. But
I haven't seen your Assyrian one. I'll have to check that out now. When my baby goes to sleep and I've done all my chores. But
yeah, so far I've made 13 videos in that series. And I was telling you this before we press record, but I've been putting like a lot of work into producing these travel videos, and for some reason they love the debunking videos better. I get all the views on those, and all I'm doing is just I just have pictures and I'm talking, and that's it.
Yeah, I mean, people love there's something entertaining about questioning ideas. There really is, which is maybe why more alternative channels have a lot of success, and they do. There is something perhaps inherently entertaining about questioning those ideas and sort of creating a debate. It's a bit more of a spectacle, but the Travelocity videos are very well produced, everyone, as well. There's a lot of effort that goes into those, and you should definitely check them out as well. One thing that really struck me with the Uncharted X video as well, and again, talking about how well these ideas are sort of broken down, it sort of hit me like a light bulb when you said it, that Uncharted X was questioning the absolute dating of archaeology and how old things are in Egypt, but he wasn't questioning the relative dating of archaeology. And there's no answer to why he thinks that way, because he hasn't responded, but that had never clicked in my mind until you had said it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, right. So in other words, if the archaeologists say this came before this and this came after this, he's willing to go he's okay with that. This is older, this is younger. But when they give a date for it, then he's not okay with it. And I was just asking him because I don't know, like, why he accepts the one and not the other. If the archaeologists are all wrong, then why are they? Is he using that as a support for some of his arguments?
Do you have a strategy when you pick a video or when you approach it, sort of talking about approach the argument? What's your strategy there?
It's basically been going for the for what is causing the most, what I believe to be harm. So in other words, the ones with the most views, right? If there's information going out that I think is incorrect, if a lot of people are seeing it, that's probably the ones I should address first. If it's on a small channel and no one really is watching it, then it's not really a big issue. So that was one thing. Although people think and they accuse me of, oh, you're just going after because they're the big YouTubers and you want the views,
Yeah.
But that's mainly why I go after the bigger. Hey, isn't it better to punch up than punch down anyway?
Well, that's what I was just thinking. If you picked on a small channel, they would.
Yeah, that wouldn't be
attack
fair.
you. No, they would attack you for just picking on a little guy who's maybe just
right? Yeah,
dipping their toes in the water of archaeology. And,
yeah. So I mean, and I'm not. I say punching up, but I'm not really punching. I'm just kind of, just kind of investigating a little bit. But I mean, I'm not picking on people smaller than me. Although people have kind of tended to think that because I am in academia, somehow that makes me above YouTubers or something like that, and I'm still punching down. But I don't know. I think a channel with 100,000 subscribers being criticized by a channel with 2,000 subscribers isn't really wrong. You know what I mean? I don't
No.
know.
Well, and like I said, you know, these aren't personal attacks. It's just questioning the ideas. And I'm sure well, I'm not sure, but anyone can take a critique of their work the wrong way, but there's definitely scope for these channels to engage in good faith with you. I'm sure of that.
Yeah.
You can tell
I
by the
haven't yet.
production of the videos.
Yeah, I haven't yet gotten a response video. I would love to get a response video. You know, have a little tete-a-tete, you know, a little back and forth. But not yet. Yeah, and I think I can kind of understand maybe why, because maybe they don't want to get into it, or maybe um, I don't want to automatically think that they're being dishonest or anything like that. I just think they're probably figuring like, well, why should I? I don't need to, you know, I have an audience, you know, we've got a lot of support here. So what's the point? They might be thinking, or they might not think that, you know, they might think that I have bad motives and I'm trying to make them look bad and I would use something against them. I don't know, but I would love a discussion, you know.
Yeah.
I will say this. I hope he doesn't mind me saying so. Well, I guess I won't name anybody, but there was one channel that I criticized where behind the scenes, not publicly, but behind the scenes, he had a good, you know, he came back at me and he's like, he was just he had a very a good response, and he's willing to talk it out and all that. So we've had some conversations behind the scenes, and I appreciated that, you know.
Did he feel, or I don't know if
he wasn't offended. In other words, he wasn't offended.
Yeah. Do you think you changed his mind in any way about?
I think on that particular subject, yes, I think I did change his mind.
Interesting. Yeah, it'd be a shame they didn't do a response video. That would be great. As someone that's done so many of these videos, 13 now, I think you said, is there a common mistake that these channels are making in their research, do you think? Like, is there a common theme or flaw that they're making?
Well, I think one of them is, it's a little bit, forgive me for using the word incestuous, but everybody's just feeding off each other in this small circle. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not going out and getting more information from other sources, but there are like a handful of people that are the big names who've written books. You know, you got your Graham Hancocks and your Brian Forsters and your Christopher Dunns and Randall Carlson and you know, all of those guys, Robert Schock, you know, all of those people. And it's just them continuing to put out information and feeding off each other and supporting each other, but no. And then if there are new people, it's just their disciples basically that are writing books or doing things now. But it doesn't seem to be that interested in addressing any counter arguments. You know what I'm saying? It's like just continue to repeat the same things over and over again, but not actually address what other people might be saying about it. So I think that's probably a big problem with it. They're in a cocoon. You know what I'm saying?
With the ones that I've seen as well, I often feel like no attempt whatsoever is made to present the more mainstream archaeological argument. For example, with Uncharted X's video again, the what is the name of the British guy that wrote the book on Egyptian stone techniques?
The one that did the measuring, you're talking about Christopher Dunn, or are you talking about well, he was mainly quoting Christopher Dunn.
Not Christopher Dunn, the one who has looked at the archaeological evidence, produced the actual sort of textbook on it. I can't remember now off the top of my head.
But one archaeologist that he keeps going back to is Sir Flinders Petrie, but that he's from the 1800s, of course.
Yeah, this was one that you had mentioned in your video, though. The real archaeology Stocks, Dennis Stocks, that's it.
Dennis Stocks, yeah. Well, he's actually an engineer. He's not an archaeologist, but he works with archaeologists. Yeah, and he's also an engineer, just as qualified as Christopher Dunn, you know. But yeah,
But his book was not mentioned once in the sort of 2 hours of Uncharted X's videos, I believe.
he did mention him once when he was talking about a video,
Yeah,
a TV show
for
where
that
Dennis Stocks
Nova
was on the TV
PBS. Yeah,
show. He mentioned that, but yeah, he didn't really get into his arguments at all.
no, that's often a flaw that I see, and also as well. I'm not talking about Uncharted X specifically here, but on a lot of alternative channels, you go down into the description and there's no sources. You know, there'll be a big claim made on the video, but there's no ability to give the viewer. They haven't given the viewer the ability to look into it any further, I feel like,
Right. Yeah.
which
And
is a
that's
major
by the
flaw.
way makes it really difficult when I'm doing a response.
I'm
Right.
sure,
I'm
yeah.
like, well, where do they get that from? You know, and then I'm looking. I'm like, I don't see it. Where is it? Then I have to go looking for it. Right. And I have to search and do all that to try to find the source of that information before I could respond to it. Yeah.
Yeah. I was in a similar situation with one channel that I've seen that I've sort of been on the fence with making a response video to, because in my opinion, this person is a sincere Nazi, like a
Oh.
legitimate Nazi. And so I don't want to put any attention towards his channel in any way. But at the same time, I would love to critique the ideas that they were suggesting, because they were talking about Viking runes being discovered in Brazil.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I think you may even know the channel.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there's a couple of them, but yeah. And I was even thinking about that, talking about, things like white people in America and in ancient
Yeah.
times, and yeah, yeah.
But if you look into it, if you dig in deep and find the original source for suggesting that these Native American petroglyphs are Viking runes, you'll find that it was a French collaborator SS officer who left for South America after World War II. And, it was this SS officer who had interpreted these petroglyphs that way. And this video must know that, because he mentions this person's name, but it does not mention the fact that they were an SS officer. And for those that don't know, the Nazis, amongst their many problems, certainly put the cart before the horse in archaeology and went out trying to prove the superiority of the Aryan people. They had come to their conclusion already, and they searched the globe to try and find evidence of this. But that is definitely the least of their sins.
Yeah.
But
yeah. There's not only one. There's like with alternative history, there are a few different pockets, right? Now, the biggest one is the one we were talking about lost high technology and all that. And sometimes it overlaps with the Atlantis people. But then there are others, like that kind of is in a somewhat, well, I mean, there's some overlap, but it's sort of in a separate category of alternative archaeology. And then there's also the people who follow Velikovsky, and I'm thinking of doing that in the near future, where they're saying there was no ancient period.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So that's another one I want to do. So I've gotten some requests for responses to that.
That would be a really interesting one. I have seen comments on videos that I've made, that other people have made, that have alluded to the fact that history is not real. And I haven't looked into it in any way. I didn't realize there's a real sort of movement pushing that.
Yeah, yeah. Somehow it's the idea that, and again, these are all very similar in that they have there's some sort of a conspiracy by academia to fool everybody, and all this, but that they're hiding the fact that history. So it's kind of the opposite of the lost ancient high technology people. They're saying history is shorter,
Yeah.
But it's an interesting theory. Yeah.
Do they believe in evolution? Proponents of this history doesn't exist? Do they think that we've been around for millions of years?
That I don't know. Yeah, I'm still kind of just scratching the surface of it right now. I'm not sure about that. And there's different variations of it too. There are disciples of Velikovsky who have come up with their theories of their own. So For a while, I was, this is years ago, I used to buy these books by David Rohl. I don't know if you ever heard of David Rohl,
No.
Rohl. And he was kind of in that school of thought. And he never said it, well, I guess he was explicit about it sometimes, but he didn't say it, what he was doing it for religious reasons, but he was definitely trying to change chronology to fit with his religious beliefs, you know. So that could be a factor.
I honestly feel the same way about Graham Hancock. I do feel that he's very open about his spiritual beliefs that humanity can sort of attain a higher level of consciousness. And whatever you think about his archaeology views and his opinions about prehistory, I do feel that religious idea has seeped into his ideas, basically.
Right, you see that with a lot of people too. That's kind of if it's not, I don't know if religious is the best word, spiritual or something, but it's this idea that there is a secret to life, the universe, and everything, you know, in history, where our ancestors knew the answers to the questions, right?
Yeah.
And we just have to figure out what it is.
Yeah. Do you ever see a video in alternative archaeology and think they kind of have a point? Are we just a couple of materialist Marxists who are hiding the truth? Have you ever, you know?
It is. Now, I will say this, that I have seen in the lost and ancient high technology sphere, people politically who are both on the left and on the right. So, for example, like someone the other day called me a Trump supporter for my video, which had nothing to do with Trump, you know. And they were very much a socialist on the left, but they believed in lost ancient high technology. And then you see others who are very much, you know, MAGA people. So I don't know, like, I guess politics may or may not have something to do with it. I don't know. But
no, I mean, sometimes I do feel like there's overlap with other ideas, especially in the realm of like Randall Carlson. The man is vehemently opposed to climate change, I believe, as a scientist, as a discipline. And I do believe I'm correct in saying that. Someone will definitely shout at me in the comments if I'm not. But I do feel that there's a lot of overlap with those sorts of ideas that, you know, again, are sort of based in a distrust of universities and academia, perhaps.
I don't know if I did a couple of videos on the out of India theory, which is another alternative history belief. And it mainly comes from India. And I don't know anything really about Indian politics, but it is political over there that the right wing wants to bring their history textbooks into line with traditional Hindu narrative about the past.
Yeah.
And about like civilization beginning in India. And that's where it all started. And so they call the university people Marxists and all that, as if economics have anything to do with it. But so in that case, it does seem to be tied in with politics.
I mean, there's a lot of ideas in archaeology. It is in a way a very political discipline in some respects when you're sort of questioning the narrative of nation states and ethnicities and things like that. It can get dicey.
You think that happened thousands of years ago? Who cares? But people still care.
I know. I barely even care about what happened yesterday. But in Eastern Europe, it's the same with topics like the Slavic migration, very political in nature. A lot of people are unhappy with the genetic evidence that suggested the Neolithic was spread by like a physical movement of people from Anatolia and the Levant.
Oh yeah.
A lot of people are very unhappy about that. And
I've seen even among some of my Twitter followers, and I don't know anything about this subject, but discussions about who the Macedonians are, and they're very, very passionate about the subject. Whether you can, so
that is all connected to the Slavic migration, and I suppose, that now we're getting really deep into the political weeds here, but I think we have a modern preoccupation with immigration, and a lot of these debates are, in my opinion, connected to a sensitivity about immigration, and therefore you can't concede that your people ever moved from anywhere else in the world. It's, to me, it's not an issue to get worked up about, but you do see it.
I really liked your video you did recently about Graham Hancock and the points that concerned you about his theories. That was really well done.
See, I feel like I put people off by just calling things bollocks and stupid, and
but I mean, like the reasons that you gave, the specific reasons were valid reasons, something to think about. Yeah, sometimes just the way you do it, people get upset about the presentation style more than the actual content, and it's hard to find that happy medium where you can get them to focus on the content.
Yeah, well, I'm sure you have viewers who, in a way, perhaps don't like your very polite and questioning approach. I'm sure there are people that want to they want you to tear them to shreds.
I get accused of being snarky. I don't know if I sound snarky, but it's kind of hard. How do you critique someone else's ideas without sounding a little bit like, oh, you're a know-it-all? You know what I mean? It's kind of hard. How do you I got to disagree. If I disagree, I disagree. Doesn't mean I think I'm better than him. I disagree with the point, but some guy said, you sound Jewish.
I saw that. I mean, I think you saw that I had commented underneath it.
Yeah. It's like, what does that have to do with, I don't, So I just asked him, I said, well, what does a Jew sound like exactly?
I'm not accusing anyone of anything, but whenever I'm watching a video and they start talking about hiding something or conspiratorial thinking, I sort of tune out, because
you never know. Some people legitimately believe that there's a cabal running the world, and therefore running academia, and so maybe you academics are you're being paid off, or I don't know. There are people who believe that.
Well, if you drill down, it always comes back to the Jews. I feel like whenever you ask these people who's doing the lying, if you really drill down into it, they'll say George Soros or something like that. It always comes back to
Rothschilds or something. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, they're hiding the Nephilim. But yeah, I did. I mean, with the Graham Hancock video, I wish I had done the introduction to that video better, because a lot of people were complaining that I didn't really take his ideas to task. And I wish I'd mentioned at the start that I've talked about many of the ideas he discusses, like the Ceruti Mastodon site, the Solutrean hypothesis, the peopling of the Americas.
You were just doing the general ideas of, you weren't, if you got into all the weeds, it would be like 2 hours long,
Yeah. I mean, I just fundamentally disagree with the way that the world is, and how we know history has progressed in the last 500-600 years, and what's happened with that. The discovery, I shouldn't have said that, the arrival of Europeans in the New World. There are just fundamental aspects of the way our world was working that would just be odd if these oceans were regularly crossed in prehistory, like the isolation of crops. I can't imagine in what scenario an ancient civilization who would have probably had to deal with famine on a quite regular basis before modern agriculture. I think all of them instinctively knew the benefits of crop diversity and having food to eat. It's like the first thing Europeans did when they arrived in the Americas.
I hadn't thought of that before you mentioned it in the video, but it's a great point. Yeah.
So
I think a lot of people, they focus more on the speaker than on the ideas. And I think that's something I would love to get my audience out of that habit. Like, they look for an authority figure that they can follow. Like, oh, this guy knows a lot. I want to follow him and see what, you know what I'm saying? And they do that a lot. with history topics or whatever topic. They just follow somebody else because they think they know. Or in other words, if you want to find out the answers, you just have to find a very knowledgeable person and follow that person. But I'm trying to get people to think, no, you follow ideas, right?
Yeah.
It's the ideas that you either follow or don't follow. Does the idea stand or fall on its own merits, not based on who says it? A complete idiot could say something brilliant, you know? Or someone who's knowledgeable about many things could say something stupid, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter exactly who. I mean, yes, there are more reliable sources than other sources. I'm not saying that doesn't matter at all.
Yeah.
And if you see what, where it's coming from, you might be a little like, oh, it's coming from that source. But I'm saying when it comes right down to it, the ultimate end is, does that idea hold up?
Yeah, that's it. Have you ever noticed that people in your comments section dislike sourcing, that they feel that academia is not creating new research, that they're just sourcing other people from the early 20th century, 19th century? Have you come across that sort of attitude before?
I can't recall an instance. You mean where we just keep going back to the same people for support?
Yeah, it's sort of, the idea is that modern archaeologists are not actually doing any research in the field. We're just sourcing old ideas, and there's a real sort of antagonism towards just sourcing, and I personally find that odd, because like you said about authority figures, no one person can know everything.
Right.
Like, no matter how knowledgeable you are in your field, you can't possibly know everything. And when you're using the ideas of another person or talking about them, of course you reference them so that anyone else can see where that idea came from.
Right. Yeah.
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 And there's some people in comments that I've seen feel that that's basically a cop-out, that they're not researching enough and that they're just taking this other person's word for it, perhaps.
Yeah, I mean,
like that.
It depends on what you're working on, right? There are archaeologists who are doing new work, and they're building upon past knowledge. So they don't want to start from square one. They want to get into the new stuff, right?
Yeah.
So, okay, I'm going to send you back to this for, the earlier arguments, and then I'm going to build on top of it or whatever. But there are other people who go back and reassess some of the old ideas. Things are constantly being revised. Chronologies are constantly being revised.
All the time. The time.
In fact, my dissertation was going back to basically it was on chronology and about dating things, and it was reassessing, going back to the original arguments. And so people do that. Not everyone does that, because we all have different interests,
Yeah. I mean, if you picked up an archaeology textbook from 1950, for example, how many ideas would be the same? How many ideas about prehistory? Not very many at all.
Yeah, it'd be very different. Yeah.
It'd be extremely different. So I personally don't see where that idea comes from, unless they're just sort of more unfamiliar with the academic world, because it's, like I said in the Graham Hancock video, the reality is it's hard to keep up. It's so much new research is being produced. Half the videos I've made, you could find a more recent research that has totally, discredited one point I might have made. And I've been doing this, just a couple of years. So it's, it's very hard to keep up.
Another thought that just came to me was, and I haven't done this in a video yet, but maybe I will, but the lost high technology position is actually not really a hypothesis. It's an anti-hypothesis, right? Because it's only a negative. It's like what didn't happen rather than what did. Because you notice how they never actually say this is what this was for. This, like, they'll never tell you this artifact was for this, or this was, what I mean, or it was made by this. They don't really tell you the purpose of it, or when it was, or who did it, or anything like that.
Yeah.
So it's like an anti-hypothesis. So it's like someone would say, my theory is, A, another person say, my theory is B, but they say, my theory is neither A nor B.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, they don't have well, I mean, I shouldn't say they don't have any, but a lot of it is just negation.
Yeah. In your uh, in your research into ancient Egyptian high technology, did you ever find someone who actually said what they think these sarcophagus are for? Obviously, archaeology finds these granite boxes in the
Right. Yeah. Did you notice
context
the
of
three
tombs. There's
videos? I mean, he
sarcophagus.
did a whole bunch on the Serapeum and never once said what the boxes were for.
Yeah.
Now I have heard from it because I did another video on the pyramids, and I don't know. This actually might go back to Christopher Dunn. I'm not sure that they might have been batteries
Mm.
holding some kind of fluid. I don't know.
Yeah, I wish I might have to recruit a physicist one day to just talk about the idea that the pyramids were a power plant. And that physics is not in my wheelhouse. I can't critique it other than the fact that we don't produce sandstone power plants now. I'll really have to try and find a physicist one day to just talk through an idea, because I just don't see where that comes from. I don't understand. Yeah, I don't know how a power plant works, so I can't critique it so well. But I just know that our power plants are not
At least
working in the
that's,
same way the
yeah.
pyramids
At
do.
least that's an actual theory. It's not just a negation.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's out there. But a lot of people, I think, believe in it. You have to admit that because of the rise of YouTube and all these other social media sites and everything, these ideas are getting propagated far more widely than they ever have been in the past.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the world of mainstream archaeology is definitely a fair criticism that they've been really slow in sort of using this new technology to communicate with the public. I think
Yeah.
there are a couple of
Sometimes also it's because they think it's beneath them. In
yeah
other words, like, well, or if they think, well, if we ignore it, it will go away or something like that.
yeah
But it isn't going away.
no, not at all. Yeah, someone's got to go out there and fight the good fight. But yeah, I do. That is definitely a fair criticism, because a lot of these journals are behind paywalls. You can't access them. I don't have
Which is not
access.
good, right? Yeah. Even
No.
for my videos, I wanna source some things for people to read, and they can't even read it because it's not available.
Yeah, and even so, even if it was an open access journal, reading some of these papers can be a hard slog, especially if you have no familiarity with the subject whatsoever. And I do wish that there was more of an effort to get rid of the jargon, get rid of the terminology, and perhaps produce it in video form or audio form to make it easier for people to understand.
Well, that's a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's what we're both trying to do
Yeah,
in
yeah.
a
But I
way.
mean, but the idea of like taking a paper, right?
Yeah,
And I'm going to turn this paper into a video. That's a really
yeah.
good idea.
I have made papers on videos on individual papers before, and like you said about earlier about how much effort you put into your travel videos and how few people watch them compared to this, I sometimes I've put a lot of effort into a video with source after source, really getting my ducks in a row, and not
And
many
then,
people
yeah.
watch it, and then I'll make
Yeah.
a video on one paper that took me much less time,
Yeah.
and it'll be a big hit.
Yeah.
But that's just the foibles of the algorithm at work there. I don't know.
Yeah, it's true.
Let me. I've kept you here for long enough, David. I really appreciate you talking with me. But before you go, do you have any sort of big plans for your channel? Any big projects coming up that you could talk about, share with my viewers?
Well, I'm working on a new Myths of Ancient History. This one is on the origins of the Zodiac, because there have been some claims that Göbekli Tepe has images from the Zodiac on some of the pillars there.
Yeah,
And so I wanted to address that claim. Göbekli Tepe is very popular right now, so good
extremely.
subject.
Yeah, extremely. It's
So I want to talk about
Probably a popular
where the
video.
Zodiac comes from, how far back we can trace it, and whether there's any, um, anything behind this idea that it goes all the way back to Göbekli Tepe, and so that's the next one that I'm working on. What else? I'm thinking of doing a short video, but I'm waiting until sort of the pandemic's over because I wanted to shoot some things out with other people. But I'm thinking of doing one just a short video on what is pseudo-archaeology.
Yeah.
What is it? Because I've heard people say things about how people just call it pseudo-archaeology if they disagree with the conclusions, and that's not really what it is. So
Yeah.
I wanted to talk about that.
Interesting. Yeah. I know it's a shame. I'm sure a lot of your videos have been put on hold because of the pandemic, especially as you like to shoot on location so much.
Yeah.
That's
My
definitely a
next,
loss.
I'm either going to go to Egypt or Turkey next. So, but I have to wait until things are safe.
Yeah. Well, I definitely anticipate your Göbekli Tepe video will be popular. That is really captured the imagination of people at the minute. I think it's the video I did where I interviewed Jens Nottroff. I don't know if you've seen it.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah,
yeah, that's one of my most popular videos for sure.
yeah.
And
People love
even
Göbekli Tepe, and I brought this up briefly in the first video I did for Uncharted X, where he brings up, and this is what I still don't understand. Like, if Göbekli Tepe was built after this so-called cataclysm, then why are they saying that it was more advanced? You know what I mean? Like, I don't understand what the
yeah,
point is. I thought the cataclysm made us start all over again, in their minds, in their view.
yeah. I mean, that word advanced gets thrown about, and people
Yeah.
are going to disagree with me here big time. But when I look at Göbekli Tepe, it is an incredible structure for a Neolithic community, or a community on the way to Neolithic lifestyle. It's incredible that they produce that. But personally, for me, I don't see what is so special about it that it couldn't have been done by 50 people
Yeah.
and some stone tools. Basically, I mean,
Yeah. There's nothing. Yeah.
it's great that they did it. They're huge stones. They're carved very well, and they were erected upright,
It
which
was
would take a
advanced
lot
for
of
its
effort.
time. Yeah.
It was extremely advanced for its time, but I don't know why people have such a hard time believing that sort of semi-sedentary, semi-farming groups could have produced that. I
Yeah.
don't know. I
Yeah.
don't know. Someone tell me in the comments.
Yeah. They act like it's a smoking gun, but I don't see the smoke. That's, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the same with I'm currently working on a video on the Olmecs at the minute.
Ooh, yeah. I love the Olmecs.
Yeah. I'll have to show you the script before I release it, just in case there's any glaring errors in there or things that you think I should put in. But again, it's one of those things where it's connected to Egypt and all of this stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like,
There's both Asia and Africa theories about their origins, right? Yeah.
I haven't seen the Asian theories at the
Oh, yeah. There are
minute.
Asian ones too. So some say they
Really?
came from Asia, and others say they came from Africa. So.
Yeah. And I just don't see it. Like, yes. I mean, the Olmecs, I mean, I don't know. You'll see in my video. I don't
Okay.
need to
Yeah.
get into it.
No, it sounds
But
great.
I don't see the evidence with the pyramids in Mesoamerica, pyramids all around the world. There's no other way to build a tall building, guys. I don't personally see it as strong evidence. But anyway, thanks for just hanging out with me today and sharing your views on these topics with my viewers. His videos are great, everyone. It's an absolute crying shame if you're subscribed to me and not subscribed to David. So
The channel, by the way, is called World of Antiquity. World of Antiquity. And
if I
yeah.
neglected to mention that, sorry, I am a terrible interviewer. I'm not used to
No.
this. I'm getting this is all new to me. But World of Antiquity, yeah, definitely check it out. Everything will be pinned below for sure. I'll put some fancy flying graphics at the start so they can see it was called World of Antiquity or
Great.
something.
Thank you. I appreciate it very much.
All right. Thanks very much.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. All right. Let's stop this recording. I think it says that you're still recording.
I will stop it.